Okay.
Hello, I'm Daniel Bonham at the Pyramid Hill Sculpture Park and Museum. We're over in the walled garden. We'll be doing a ink wash demonstration today. I won't actually be like doing a motif. I'll just be kind of showing how to use the ink in different ways. Two different inks we'll be using today is the black walnut ink made by Pyramid Hill. It's a nice kind of brown color. If you look up here, you can see it. The other one we'll be using is a sumi ink, and that's obtained by the ash of incense and candles that are kind of leave a soot up above. And we'll start with this. This was like a tonal chart I was doing with the Pyramid Hill ink. It was last week, and I was just trying to figure out how it is. It's a good ink. I make my own black walnut ink, but if you think in terms of old masters ink, it's probably in that realm rather than being modern inks, which have more of an ability to kind of be manipulated because they have gum arabic in them and other, maybe a touch of honey for viscosity. But here we go. We'll open it up and hope that we don't spill it here. But the first method that we're going to do, and we'll only use it for the black walnut ink, is we're going to set up 3, maybe 4 different things to kind of do it. But as I'm kind of putting this together, the thing you want to think about is how you put your paper down, and whether you're going to do thin veiled washes or if you're going to just do kind of direct hits. But there's one kind of paper, the Arches, if you're familiar with it. I kind of disconnected it earlier, but basically it comes in a pad, and right here you've got a little opening that doesn't have the glue, and you go around it with your palette knife after you've done your water-based paint or ink wash drawing, and then it comes off. But and the good thing, it kind of holds it down. Let me try to look for the other one. This is from a demo earlier, just showing how to use gouache. But in this sense, I just taped it all the way around so that when you're working with the water-based things, sometimes I'll turn it to the side. Sometimes it can come this far off the page as it's kind of warping. So you want to have a good method to kind of hold everything down. And then, another one that people, a method they like to do is, put it in 4 corners. On this, I might add another one so that we're able to kind of make sure that it maintains that tight quality to the page. So then we'll come here. Let me get that. And what we'll do is we'll just add in like a little bit of water, a little bit more water, and a lot more. Put this here, and then we'll get one more where we'll just have the straightforward. So with this particular ink by Pyramid Hill, what I discovered working with it, and if you're interested in purchasing it, they have it at the welcome tent up there. I'm not sure what the price point is for it, but we'll just play around with it a little bit. And if anyone wants to play around with it, I could let you do that so you can kind of get a sense of what it's like. And you can use any kind of brush you want. These are, in the sense, Western brushes, soft, synthetic. You can use natural hair brushes if you want. Also, Chinese or Asian bamboo brushes are a good thing to kind of do it with it. But what we'll do first is I'll get my brush wet first, just so that we kind of know what's going on. So let's see. So dark, not so dark, a little bit lighter, and I think this is watered down big time. So we'll just go with this one, and I guess I need my paper. So we just kind of make a mark here, and you can kind of see it, swish it around. So the thing that you can do, and this will be more evident when we're using the sumi ink, is you just lay this down, and that's it. It's kind of interacting with the the paper, it's one thing that I call it is crystallization of the paper. And that happens in watercolor, it happens with this ink, it happens with the sumi ink, where you just get the, it has starch in the paper, either on it or in it, and you lay it down and it just becomes like a very fresh mark. And you can do it with a very intense ink. It'll be more evident when we do the sumi ink. But we'll just come in, we'll take this, and this is watered down, and it seems, this ink seems to work better when you, so we get a light wash there, come here, wash it out so that we're not, we get another lighter wash. And the thing that you can do, the black walnut ink is kind of like a very tight tonal range. If you think of, if you're familiar with Tiepolo drawings, does that ring a bell? 16th century Italian painter. But there was a father and two sons. They did wash drawings, and it was like big, broad shapes. And at that time period, what they were doing is they were just doing like preparatory sketches. So it wasn't something that they were going in to get the actual feel for the form or to render something. It was just lay something down, get your idea down, and then you can work from there. What happened is when you go from the white of the page to the mark of the ink, that edge or that transition is where you got the sense of the form. Where, you know, in modern times, people will do things where they're kind of rendering things. Myself, I try to stay away from that. I just let the ink kind of speak for itself and figure out a way. There's a great artist, Wendy Arton. If you want to check her out sometime, she has videos on Instagram, I think on Facebook, and then she's got her own website, wendyarton.com, where she'll actually do, it's more of like a watercolor, but she's basically, it's very direct, fly by the seat of your pants kind of drawing or painting. And then we'll let that kind of dry a little bit. We'll start making more kind of marks. And this one's kind of dry, so we'll come over, just let it, it's going to drip a little bit, but I think that's going to be okay. We'll let those dry a little bit. The other thing you can do, which will probably work better with the sumi, this is called blossoming. And what you do is you just kind of lay down a big puddle of water, and you can't really see it right now, but we'll just lay that down. This ink has some, I don't know if it's like a vodka alcohol or a denatured alcohol, but when there's a lot of alcohol in the black walnut ink, you'll get these like natural blossoms. But what we're going to be doing, we have a puddle here. We're just kind of letting it sit there. Maybe we'll put a little bit more in there. I don't know if you can, I'll come a little close. I don't know if you can see the little puddle. Yeah. But the other thing you can do is you could just, without that much water, you could sit there and draw with the water, and then you go back with the ink, and it'll stay within that barrier. It kind of creates something for you. So we're going to do this, and we'll see how it's going to do that. And if you just kind of look, and you can kind of move that around, and it'll have, since this is such a big puddle, it's going to take a while for it to dry. And then we'll try another thing where we'll come here and just draw a circle, and maybe just a little bit of water, but not a lot. And come in here, and we'll just set it there, and you can just kind of do it. And if you can notice, it's staying within the boundaries there. I might, just so I can get this back up onto the easel, I might, I'll have to pat that just a little bit to get it there, and then we'll come back here. And then if you just look at these areas, it's a little puddle. Usually that'll be a fairly intense color. And then why don't we just, I think it's still wet, we'll just lay down a thin wash. And the thing you can do is once you lay it down, you can come back and you can kind of pick it up a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll do this. But if you do it enough, I mean, this has like probably about 10 coats of ink on it, where this was like a first time hit, it was watered down, and then you just kind of work here. But the kind of things I was going to try to demonstrate here, if you kind of look at, these are overlays, and you can see how it kind of gets darker. But once again, it's in a very tight range. Once you start adding the water to it, its kind of range opens up again. But you actually only need about 3 or 4 tones, plus the white of the paper, and then when you're kind of working with your water, that becomes another tone as well, so you can kind of do it. So once again, we'll just kind of go, so you could go from here, which was one of the first direct hits with the straight ink, and I mean, maybe there's too much water in this brush right now, but you do that. You could also take this thin wash, and you know, since it's kind of limited in what it can do, it's more of a direct kind of method rather than indirect. Meaning indirect, you layer, layer, layer. Where this, you get 1 or 2, maybe 5 hits on it, and then it just stops kind of doing it. That's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. It's just the quality of it. But you could do it, get this dark tone, and then take this value and do it right next to it. And if you put enough layers, you can get it to be as dark as that. So this, I mean, I talked about the crystallization where you just kind of do it. It kind of takes on this quality where it's working with the paper and it's just kind of sitting there. And the qualities can be quite nice when you're doing that. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to move this out of the way, and then we'll start working with the Sumi ink. Normally I would change the water, but I don't think it's going to be, it's not going to be that big of a deal because we're not going to be mixing the water with the ink. But it will have a ever so slight different kind of value or color to it than it would normally. The Sumi ink usually comes out being, it's almost like it's a cool color if you're thinking in those terms. But we'll just take this, so Sumi ink, have to make sure that it's mixed well. Here, don't look.
I can never get caps off.
This one's not coming out.
So while he is opening that, I'll answer the question. This is part of Art and Earth Day here at Pyramid Hill. Today we're celebrating Arbor Day, Earth Day, as well as International Sculpture Day. We're open from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. today, and it is free admission today.
Not gonna open it.
One of them caps.
I grabbed the wrong bottle today. Let's see. It's right there. Anyone have a pair of pliers?
I'm sorry, I don't have.
Well,
Honestly, I might in my cart.
oh, there we go.
Oh, cool.
So what you do is you put out a little bit. That might be a little too much. But just for our purposes. So I'll put it right next to what we're doing over here. And what we did, I mean, that's still kind of dripping. This is still kind of dripping. But you can see that it, with all that water, it just kind of really lightened it up. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my brush wet and then take it onto the paper towel, and you can do this in a more rectilinear kind of ordered way. You know, for my purpose today, since we're just kind of giving a demonstration, we don't need to have it exactly that, but we'll do this, put it in there, and we're just going to do, we might have to add just a touch of water to it. And I like to use these plates, these ceramic plates that are flat, so that you can kind of work in 3 or 4 or 5 different puddles. You can also use a folding plastic watercolor palette. It has 2 sides, and what I've discovered, I mean, if it's this thick, it probably won't work, but if it was a little thinner, you could go back and reactivate the ink just a little bit. But so we'll just kind of do this, and we're just going to make a mark, and you can kind of see how dark. And if you want to just come up close and look at that, how there's, you can see the texture of the paper.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, you know, what I'm talking about, the crystallization, where it really kind of gets that kind of light quality. It's kind of working with the paper, we'll do some thinner washes so that you can get the same kind of thing. But once again, this, let me just go ahead and get a thin value thrown down there so that you can kind of see it. But literally, I mean, if you want to come up and look at that one a little bit, it's a lighter value, but it still has like some kind of presence to it. But you could literally, if you had the patience, just let that dry, lay another value, the same kind of thinness, just lay it, and you would get fairly close to that. I mean, that one's fairly dark, but you know, if we did like a medium value, and it's just mixing the water like this, you know, we'll just come here and for our purposes, okay, it needs just a touch more. Come in here and do that. And, you know, since it's at the vertical, it's kind of like dripping down like that. I like to work vertically, unless I'm making it super wet, then I'll have it laying flat on my lap as I'm sitting down, or you could lay it flat here. The other thing you can do is, it's very flexible and pliable. So you lay it down, you can come back, and you can take it up if you want. And we could lay it down again, take it, let it dry, go lay it down again. I mean, like this, you lay it next to it. And then we'll try that one thing that I was talking about earlier, where you kind of do a little bit of the drawing, and just for our purposes, we'll come here. And instead of putting it on the inside, we're going to put it on the outside this time, so you can kind of see how you can use the water to kind of draw with. And it might very well mix with it a little bit. I don't think it's going to bleed beyond that point. And then, but I mean, literally, it could be a very fast kind of thing where you're laying it down, you're taking it up, you're laying it down, you're taking it up. If you're really kind of, you know, when I was younger in school, we would do it with figure drawing, where you're just drawing the figure with the ink wash, and you're constantly kind of moving it. And you know, a lot of people just think that it's not flexible and you can't do much with it, but so you kind of see there on this one, that original hit that was the darkest, it really has that kind of quality of the crystallization that I was talking about.
I see.
And so there's things that you can do. I mean, we were using the water to kind of draw with. You can do a very light underdrawing with it, and then slowly kind of work to darker things. You can do a combination of a little bit of drawing with the ink and a little bit of I guess, flying by the seat of your pants, if you will, where it's just more direct, and you're willing to kind of accept whatever it is that kind of comes forward. You know, the thing about drawing, whether it's with ink or any other medium, is that as long as you maintain the relationships and you have a sense of the relationships, it's going to feel as if it's correct. And if you get those tonal values, particularly not so much in a line drawing or a pencil drawing, but when you're working with tones, as long as you're kind of in the approximation, it's going to look like what you want it to be. And then there is a point where you have to walk away from what you're looking at, and you only look at the piece of artwork or drawing or painting or whatever that you're making. We'll just we'll pull the black walnut ink back up just for a minute, and I think it's dry enough. If you want to just come and look at this one's still kind of wet down here, but up here, particularly this one and that one, they've got that nice kind of crystallization where,
Yes.
and when I say that, I mean it's like this freshness that happens. And it's so easy to, you know, paint, oil paint, water-based paints. It's so easy to kind of kill them and make kind of mud out of things. But if you want to kind of maintain that immediacy and that freshness, this is like a way to kind of go with it. So we've kind of got the black mixed in there, but just for our purposes, we're going to come and lay a thing over here, and it's we might have to add a little more, but you can kind of see right there where that very slight tonal value, not so much there. When this dries, we'll be able to kind of discern the differences of it. But I mean, that's nice. This is a Fabriano drawing paper that I'm using. It's not actually meant for water media, but it's doing a good job, and that's actually quite wonderful. So I think now what we'll do is we'll try to get it to be just a little bit darker, where we're not going to add any water. We kind of risk that the ink might crack because it's a little thicker than it should be, but we'll just kind of lay it there, and we'll let that sit for a while and see what happens. And but that's basically it. I mean, you have 3 or 4 tones. The white of the paper, the kind of subtle quality of the ink as you're kind of going in there and dipping into the water. Well, why don't we just go ahead and lay something here? So that's a darker one. We'll pull up a thinner value. And we'll lay it here. So I've got the dark, the light. I mean, it might be better if I had this flat, but I think it's doing what it needs to do. And then if you have to, you know, every so often, you know, as an artist, I'm painting in oils, I'm painting in gouache, I'm painting in open acrylic, I'm doing drawing with ink, is, you know, go up and clean your space a little bit so that you have more area, unless you know you really want to use that thing, use that particular tone, and then you come back and you start mixing again. You know, the other kind of thing to think about is the kind of brush that you're using. Most of these are rounds, and I might have here's a flat, so we'll kind of use this as well, but we'll make a couple of marks, you know, here, maybe just a little bit darker. But you know, as you kind of work with it, you'll get a sense of how to use it. But if you want more control, use like a Western style brush. If you're not so concerned about that at first, you could use a Chinese or an Asian bamboo a bamboo brush. But the thing is once you get a handle on the bamboo brush, you can have just as much control. And a lot of those the bamboo brushes are used for lettering as well as painting, so there's a real kind of tact of how to kind of use it. But if you were going to use a bamboo brush with bristles, rather than holding it down here, you want to hold it here, or you even want to hold it out here. And that's another thing to kind of think about when you're working, either ink wash or painting, is that are your work habits like kind of wrist, or are they elbow, or are you actually a very physical kind of person? You know, if you were working larger, you would need to kind of work larger. But I think that I just work this a little bit more in here, get some more of the kind of flat brush. And all the brushes I have are synthetic, but there's natural hairs, which is not becoming, you know, it's not so acceptable anymore, but there's still the natural hairs, they're still very beautiful. I mean, I suppose they could, rather than killing the animal, they could just wait until it passed away and then harvest the hair. That might be, but some people don't even want that possibility. But, you know, these synthetics are good. They work just as fine, or just as well. And now I'm just kind of playing around, but let me, you know, this is nice kind of tonal values. But if Would you want me to wipe the brushes off so you don't have to touch?
Oh, no, hon, we just want to stay for the demonstration a little bit, but then we're going to go. 'Cause
But if you wanted to make a couple of marks, I could walk.
oh, no, we're just thinking about going to another one because
Okay.
we have another one to get to. But thank you.
Okay,
We've
well,
enjoyed
thank you
it.
so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
We've enjoyed it. I love the rock garden here, too.
Yes. Okay.
Love this. Thank you.
Okay. Hi. So I think basically that's it. But thank you so much for coming today.